Carver shrugged again, annoyance starting to accumulate in his chest. He feared it was in danger of accelerating into anger.
Can I at least arrange one for you?
Up to you.
He could feel his lips getting tight and his words clipped. This wasn't a good sign. He hoped Kieran didn't brandish the dishcloth at him again. He might just let rip with some choice words.
If I do find a cleaner, will you at least pay them?
Kieran seemed oblivious to Carver's rapidly changing mood.
Although if we can find anyone willing to take on this hellhole, I'll be surprised.
He sniffed at the dishcloth, which he was still holding, and wrinkled his nose at the smell.
Have you ever known me not to pay my way?
Kieran looked at Carver askance, the penny dropping that he was getting mad. At that point, Kieran's wife Nina appeared behind him to show her husband yet another specimen of interesting coloured mould, this time inside one of Carver's mugs. Her normally pretty face was set in an unattractive frown of disapproval. Kieran started flapping his hands to warn her to back off. Carver couldn't stand any more. He took a deep breath and held it in tightly to contain the anger, together with the potentially damaging words that threatened to erupt from his mouth. He barged past the outraged couple. Nina squealed as the mug flew from her hand and smashed to pieces on the floorboards. But Carver didn't look back, couldn't look back, as he slammed out of the front door, nearly taking it off its hinges. Reaching the bottom of the wooden steps in a couple of strides, he finally let out the breath he'd been holding and whistled. He would have preferred to scream, but a whistle would have to do for now. A large grey dog lolloped out of the undergrowth. Carver ruffled pointed ears, and affection for the animal became his overriding emotion. The anger lodged in a ball somewhere in his chest.
Come on, Wilf, let's get out of here. I'm fed up with being treated like a naughty schoolboy. Let's run.
The dog didn't need any further encouragement, matching his stride to run by Carver's side. Together they sprinted down the forest path, over the road, hesitating only a second to see if there were any passing cars, and onto the hillside overlooking the bay. Carver ran along the rough turf until his lungs would take him no further. He sank to his knees, gasping, and Wilf, by now well used to this type of behaviour, plonked himself next to his master and settled down for a snooze. Carver marvelled at how well Wilf read his moods, knowing when to play, when to stay away, and when to comfort. His chest felt tight after running, so he took a couple of precautionary puffs from the inhaler he kept in his back pocket. The solid presence of the animal was what he needed today. To think he originally hadn't wanted the dog at all, had protested when his wife had arrived home with the tiny squirming puppy that made watermarks on his polished oak floors. Wilf had been Bliss's dog, really, but now he was most definitely Carver's. Two male souls united in their grief and loss. Carver settled more comfortably on the grass, sitting with his knees bent, his hand on Wilf's warm flank, as he scanned Borteen Bay and the sea beyond for ships. There was a brisk wind, so there were several sails scudding across the waves. The ball of anger and the breathlessness began to dissipate, and the thought of being able to sail away on one of the yachts started to become very appealing. The white sail or the red? Choices. But he sighed. Even if he did go, he would still take himself on that journey, and it would provide no escape from what had become his reality. More was the pity. When his heart rate finally slowed after the run, he lay back, watching the clouds moving fast overhead and feeling his body almost ticking like a hot car engine that had just been turned off. Then, despite the slightly chilly late September breeze, he fell asleep next to his faithful dog. Carver hadn't had an unbroken night's sleep since the day Bliss had died. He was plagued by nightmares full of recrimination and regret, and consequently was always exhausted. He woke a while later, stiff and cold. The afternoon was almost over. He could tell by the quality of the light as he sat up.